makes sense, right? If we consider that the Earth is not just a material dead thing, but it's actually a living planet, a living
Mhm.
consciousness. Like we have energetic meridians, which are really important. It's just like the energy which is flowing within our physical body, but it's connected towards a deeper layer of our being, with our mind, within the uh, really responsible of how our organs are functioning and how our health is. The Earth also has this meridians that's called the ley lines, and we can be considered her, maybe her organs or her children or whatever you want to name it, right? And when we as human beings we are more connected towards these ley lines, we become more whole because it's a network of consciousness. Because the Earth is like the body, right, of the material plane. And also, what you told me about the voice just recently in this conversation, I recently watched a video about somebody who was really like he had manifested his family with a wife, with the children, with a good job, like everything. He had a high position. He was just everything was going smoothly. He was living in the States until one day he just heard a voice saying to him, "You promised." And he was like, "What?" And he could not deny it because the voice just continued and it became stronger, right? But he, for the first moment, he was just pushing it away. And then at one day, he he really it really hit him. He really had the realization what it meant that he promised. And he remembered that he had in a past life. It's maybe a bit strange for most people, but let's consider that we are immortal spiritual beings and we have multiple lives, like a school, right? And just the body is like clothes you put on just to learn and have experience. Anyway, then he realized that he was responsible for one of the constructs in Egypt, in the Giza Plateau, and that he came from a higher civilization, and this civilization was destroyed by a big cataclysm, and that he had to brought this knowledge to this land, Kemet, Egypt. And he guarded this knowledge like in the Giza Plateau within the Sphinx. They have a lot of tunnels beneath the Giza Plateau. Um, so what he just did, he quitted his job. He left his family and he just went to Egypt and to study the ground there with Skylar technology. And yeah,
Like
they are
the laser
actually,
thing?
yeah, yeah,
Right. That's
yeah.
really interesting, right?
Yeah, and that's like everywhere. Also in the Amazon, you have like now this
Yeah.
Skylar going on, and
Yeah, because
they,
otherwise they'd have to raise the forest just to see what's under. But now they can
yeah,
just fly a drone over it. It's super cool.
yeah, that's really interesting. This technology, it really helps us to have like evidence, right? Science has also its
Mhm.
value, right?
Of course.
It has its qualities. Like we can really validate things. We can
Yeah.
really explain it in a rational way, how things work.
You're touching at something very important here because it's balance, right? It's
Yes,
not that we're saying like, oh, objective is bad, subjective is good. Um, Science is bad, spirituality is good. It's none of
yeah,
this. Like, it's
no,
really about being being brave, exploring all of the avenues, and truly attempting to discover and understand both the world and ourselves. Right?
right,
And sciences and introspection and meditations is also very much useful for that.
right.
So yeah, balance.
Like you asked me in the beginning about Paramahansa Yogananda, that you did not really went into this
Yeah.
study. So what's really interesting is within the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. So I'm initiated into his lineage for 13 years now. I study it, and it's study of the self based on the science of breath.
Hmm.
So it's the science of knowing yourself. And by applying this science of breath, of basically controlling your pranic energy flow, introverting your senses,
Hmm.
you are not anymore limited by doing a objective observation from the senses. So this science helps you by rhythmic breathing, by controlling your pranic energy,
Yeah.
to have a valid observation of reality. Because science will always be limited in that sense, because it's
You
always perceived towards the five senses, and that is so limited. If you consider we live in a
right.
universe, it's so big, it's so immense.
Yeah.
Science knows this, right? How can we, with our limited five senses, know the truth? It's not possible.
It's
So
totally, you're so right.
right, the masters, the yogis, the alchemists, they all knew that. Like the
Yeah.
alchemists, they used the energies from the planets, from the earth, from the elements to empower their energetic body and to basically also continue after the material plane. And that's
Hmm.
also some yeah, some truth, right? And science
Yeah.
again. Science, I feel like in this time, what you explained earlier in our conversation, that now we live in a really crucial time, and that science is like opening its gates
Yeah.
more, right, towards this metaphysical reality. And that's really a positive endeavor.
I'm really glad you're bringing this up because I felt compelled to talk about this a few times during our talk. Like there, I grew up like this is how we started the conversation, right? I grew up with a very rational, scientific mind, as I think most of us did.
Right.
And so I it was important for me during my explorations to kind of come back to the more rational and scientific understanding and root my newfound spiritual understanding in sometimes a little bit more rational things. So there's a bunch of things we can mention. I think the two most interesting are the very simple things, but they open a door, or they did open a door for me. The first one is the double slit experiment, which is the experiment where they try to figure out is light and a bunch of atoms, particles, or is it waves, right? Um, and long story short, like the conclusion of that experiment was that light behaves as a wave when it is not observed, but when it is observed, it starts behaving as a particle. Or the word they now use is it collapses into it's like the wave function collapses into the position of the particle, right? When you learn about that in science class, they like gloss over it quickly, like, oh, uh, yeah, so if you observe it, it collapses into a particle. What the fuck do you mean? If someone observes it, like, that's wild. There's no interaction. I'm not sending anything to the particle. Like my eyes are not like jets of anything. You know what I mean? Like actually my eyes are receiving something from the particle. All right.
Right.
But when I observe it, it affects the particle.
Yeah, do you know the
Consciousness,
terminology? Do you know the terminology of this science?
the name of the experiment is the double slit experiment.
Right, but they have like a term of the way how they explain this, right? They have like a term.
Is it quantum physics?
I I think it's part of quantum physics. Anyway, yeah, please continue.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm unsure. But yeah, to me, the implications of this are, or at least the questions that it poses, are very important and wild. Like, because essentially what science just proved is consciousness does affect physical form, right? So consciousness is not a sort of a computation function. It's not just something that happens inside of your brain and is like not doesn't go out.
Yes.
The mere fact of conceiving something, the mere fact of putting your attention on something changes the manifestation of that thing, which seems to indicate that consciousness and attention are actually way more primary than what we originally thought. They seem to be essential elements. Attention and consciousness seem to be essential elements of reality, not just emergent phenomenons. They seem to be like root phenomenons, right?
Right.
Driving phenomenons between how things happen and manifest, right? So that's, to me, that's not a small double slit experiment and all it implies. I think science has been sort of avoiding talking about that very directly for a while. It's just like, yep, it when you observe it, it behaves differently than when you don't observe it, and that's it. We don't explore that. We don't explore the causes. But that, to me, is fascinating. It should be explored. I think it's taboo because it opens some doors that we don't necessarily want to open because they're not that rational. Um,
Yeah.
the second thing is, if I may very quickly, is quite simply the placebo effect. The placebo effect, when you learn
Ah,
about medicine and that sort of stuff, is a footnote. Oh, you have to account for the placebo effect. You have to make sure that the medicine really heals the person and it's not just a placebo effect. What the fuck are you talking about? It's just a placebo effect. The person is either healed or they're not healed. And if they're
right.
healed with a pill of salt, they're still healed, right?
Right.
So really, once we discover the placebo effect, we should have probably stopped studying all of the other bullshit and start focusing simply on the placebo effect. How can you reliably induce a placebo effect in someone? Convince someone that they're healed and they will be healed. That's wild when you think about it. But we just say like, oh yeah, it's the placebo effect. And the connotation of it is the placebo effect, so it's fake, so it's not real. So the person gets better. That's the
Man,
only
this
point,
is
right?
this is such an important point again, because I feel we are being so disempowered as
Mhm.
human beings, because we rely upon external sources for our self-knowledge, and I think that's like the difference.
Yeah,
You applicate science for the external research, then you will not know yourself because it's always something externally. If you,
yeah,
the other way, applicate science for the study of yourself, of your inner world, or how your inner world works, you not only get to know yourself, you also get to know the external world in a way more
mhm.
profound way. Why? Because it's considered that the inside and the outside are the same. All the mystery
Right,
traditions, they say we as human being, our body is considered a microcosmos of the
right.
whole universe. So if that is true, and I truly, yeah, experience that it's true, um, then it literally means that we carry everything in ourselves.
Yeah,
Everything which
yeah, yeah.
exists, all of the powers, all abilities lays dormant. It may be, but it's still there. That is a really powerful realization, and I'm
It
really
is
happy
such
with
a
this
powerful
conversation,
realization.
also,
For me,
Raphael, because yeah,
one
that's
beautiful and reassuring thing or conviction that I've had is if this is all true, and I do believe it is, it means that I genuinely am safe because all the answers are within. Like, I don't need exterior sources for wisdom or love or fulfillment or understanding. And like really, we can talk for hours about everything, but at the end of the day, that is the deeply powerful realization that enables you to truly become a force for good and unleash your personal power, right? Is when you realize that, and not only like realize like rationally, but deeply emotionally know and believe, both rationally and emotionally, that the source is internal and you do not need anything that is outside of yourself. And as I think I was talking about with Joseph the other day, then everything magically becomes playful. Even the serious things are playful because you don't depend on them, right? You're not interacting with the world from a place of lack or fear. You're you're deeply fulfilled. Every moment is a gift, and every action you take is a gift to the world. And truly, truly, like once you interact with the world from that place, the fountain of abundance springs through your life. Because I don't
And
know,
how
cause
can
what, like
how can people tap into this? Because I recognize
um,
that, I recognize the
yeah,
state, but it's not like sometimes it's like some frustration comes or like some
mhm,
repetition, like doing the dishes or having to do a promotion or marketing, and it's not always something I like
yeah,
to do, and I get like a bit frustrated because I just want
yeah,
to materialize and I share my passion and not to put too much time and effort. I just shared it the other day after the computer, like doing promotion and marketing, and then it's difficult for me to feel that place.
of course, of course. I think I like to look at a lot of things in life as habits, right? So your whole life, you've built the habit of not coming back to that mental space, of being very much immersed in the world of your physical reality, um, the stressors of everyday life, and that lack mentality. You've been taught uh, to base a lot of your decisions from a place of fear, usually fear of lack or fear of judgment or things like that. But at the end of the
And
day,
uh,
they're a little, yeah.
and what is the cause of this conditioning? Because do we all have it, or
I think I think so. Yeah, I think most of us have it. I think it's rare. It's like the exception not to have it because naturally fear is more powerful um, as a motivator. I mean, specifically than abundance, or negative is more powerful than positive as a motivator. So, for example, psychologically, we I think it's like 8 to 1. Like if you have 8 good events, it takes 8 good events to outshine one bad event in your day, right?
yes,
We are trained naturally, biologically. Um, it is natural for us to pay more attention to the bad than the good. Why? Because you can always get better or be more happy. You can only die once, right? So the bad things, the threatening things, are objectively more important to your survival than the good things, right?
right, right,
It's more important for you to avoid the bad things than to go after the good things biologically, right? At the
right,
very base level of survival, right?
right,
So that is a very constructive instinct when it comes to survival.
right.
Will It will help us not die, right? And keep going on the adventure, right? Which is good.
Yes,
Um, but but, uh,
interesting explanation. Thank you.
yeah, right. But then when you get to a different level, when you take care of these things and all that stuff, and because we're like very, obviously we're very civilized, we have a very civilized society. So the true dangers of things and the true stressors are very different. Um, and then we could go into like degree and learn stuff, but like when you and me, I'm gonna assume something, okay, but chances are, we haven't been pursued by a bear or a wolf very often, right? Probably never, right?
No.
Yeah. So, but that's supposed to happen.
Even like
You're,
you while living in Canada, you never been pursued
I've
by a
actually,
big bear.
I've had some encounters, but not,
Okay,
yeah, thankfully not too close. Actually,
it
my
brought you a
closest,
lot, brought you a lot of wisdom, right?
my closest encounter was with a mother moose.
Wow.
And yeah, that was intense because I was going up a hill and I had my head down and I looked up and she was like a meter away from me and she lifted her head at the same time. And
Wow, man, this is
I could see she was surprised and I was surprised. And she went and I was like backing up like, oh, and it was
wow.
fine, but it was a little bit intense.
Yeah.
Yeah, my point is you're in a way, it would be normal biologically for you and me to have that experience to be pursued by a wild animal, right?
Yeah.
And in a way, that would be super useful for us because it is a great baseline of what is real stress, right? We don't have that. For us, real stress is like I am having a bad grade at school. Mom is not going to be happy with me. I did this thing, maybe I'm gonna lose this friend or you know what I mean? Like it's usually relationship based or it's like at work I have a lot of demands on myself and I don't want to let people down.
Yeah, or like relationship towards money, right? That's like our basic survival.
Exactly.
But it's
But
like
the
a
thing is,
symbol, right? Like it's not really there in your face. Like you're not really threatened. Like that is not so often the
exactly,
case, right? Yes.
our scale is so fucked up because we don't know what true stress, well, not we don't know, literally our bodies don't know what true stress is. They start treating the worst stress that you're having, which is like baby stress, and for like let's say like for a Cro-Magnon, like for a cave person, right? Like
Yeah.
a ancient human, like Neanderthals or something. The worst stress that we have in our lives is like stop complaining. Like this is everything is fine, right? And but because that is our worst stress, we treat it as if it was a predator running after us, right? Our
Yeah.
bodies treat it that way. Like we react that way. And the when you remain in that stress, it becomes very destructive to your organism, right? I don't know where we were coming from with that, but in a way, it's all just
Yeah.
fighting whatever biology a lot to move past it. Um, But I think the way to do that is to understand and work with the biology
Right.
rather than to ignore it and say, I'm better than that. I don't have no.
Right.
You're not really better than that, right? You're still a human. You're a mammal. You have a body.
Right.
It
That's
affects you.
that's so true. That's also the same. Like, oh, we are going to conquer nature. We are going to take all
Mhm.
these resources out of the earth. And the way you came towards this explanation is I asked you about the I am, and
Mhm.
that you are explaining about how to relate from the more
Right.
abundant,
Oh,
and
we were
it's
talking
like a
about
kind of
habits.
yeah, right, like a kind of equilibrium where you
Yep.
can relate towards your actions and not go
Hmm.
into these habits or like specific emotions or frustrations or
Yep.
like not feeling grateful or
Yep.
because in like it starts all the time with like a kind of a thought, right? And then this
Hmm.
thought comes, what you just explained, like a fertile ground. We
Yep.
give it birth, but sometimes, most of the times, because we are so identified with it. It appears so real. It's just like maybe an addiction. I don't know. Like it's some kind of pattern.
Well,
Yeah.
it's a habit, right? It's how I would describe it, and that's why I went there earlier. Is you, you don't have to plant the thought that you receive, right?
No.
You do
No.
not have to be the fertile ground for that thought, but we do get into the habit of planting certain thoughts when they come up,
Right.
right? Um, the the bad news is once you once you develop a habit, it's hard to change, right? It's hard to get out of the habit and
Yes.
replace it with something different. The good news is it's just a habit and you can change it, even though it's a little bit hard. But once you become conscious of it and you desire to change it, you can change it. And once you've changed it, then the bad news I just told you, that the habit is hard to change, is now going to become your strength that you consciously desire. And now you've built momentum in that way. You're inertia, right? You're not
That's
going to get
powerful.
out of the habit easily. So it's both a good and a bad news, right? That's the power of habits. Yeah.
So when you get confronted by a bear and you have the courage and you survive, the bear becomes your ally, your spirit animal.
In a way, I mean, you don't you don't really choose what happens to you, or I don't believe, but you do choose how you relate to it,
Relate to it.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and what you identify with. So for obstacles, tough times, all these things, they're teachers. They're an opportunity to learn and to grow. Um, and yes, they're oftentimes dangerous and they can destroy you if you're not careful. But that's only a testament to their power as teachers. So
Yeah. Right.
it's,
And
the choice you have is how you relate.
right. And what do you feel is like the best way to change these patterns like this?
Mm. It's for me, it's the same as so there's a particular type, I don't know the names of different types of meditations. Maybe you will be able to help me there. There's a particular type of meditation where the goal is simply to, let's say, focus on either a point or your breath or something. And when you get distracted or your attention goes somewhere else, it's just to bring it back to that point, right?
Yeah, I'd like a mindfulness or vipassana.
Right. Yeah. So to me, this practice, at first, it was meditation often, or from time to time. And I didn't really understand what was the point, right, of the meditation. But it did feel good, so I kept doing it.
Yeah.
But now I think I understand more because I see that I can do that in my life and I can carry that capacity of gently bringing the attention back on the object. I can bring that capacity everywhere. And it enables me, amongst other things, to reshape or change some habits, right? Because that's basically what a habit
Reshape.
is
Reshape. What did you say?
reshape or change some
Ah,
habits,
yes.
right? Well, thinking might run out of time again. We'll restart it if we need. Um, yeah, because I'm taking your attention somewhere, and when you build the capacity to notice that and bring back your attention when you want it, that's when you build a new habit. And for me, the knowledge that I am, that deep knowledge is a habit because I will forget it often. I'll get swept by the demands of the real world and the 3D world. And I'll get out of flow, I'll forget where I am, what I am, and I'll just get really bothered and stressed by all the events
Right.
in my day, right?
Right.
Yeah. It's as it's simple, but it's not easy. You just have to keep reminding yourself to get back to that, right? And sometimes you do have to take the time out of your day, like get in an empty room, close the door, sit down, and spend like between 30 seconds and 10 minutes just like tuning in, right? And it doesn't have to be complicated. It's just you close your eyes or not, and you breathe, you focus on your breath or not. Like there's no, you know what I mean? Like you do what feels right. But the point is to remember to listen and to pay attention. Because we were talking earlier about those senses that we've lost. So the sensing for the planet's flow of energy and the ley lines, but also the sense for what you truly want, you genuinely have to do it. But also the more you do it, the more you'll notice when you are in or out of flow, right?
Yeah.
And once you start noticing when you're in or out, then you can also start noticing what happens when you're in and what happens when you're out. And then I think, I believe you'll probably find out that good things happen mostly when you're in, and bad or troubling things happen mostly when you're out. Right.
Yeah.
So
Wow. That's
naturally, you'll start to desire a little more, and naturally, you'll prioritize it because you will now start to truly, deeply, genuinely see it as essential, important. At first, I saw flow or like taking a break to meditate or like shit like that. Um, a little bit as procrastination, like a waste of time. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
It's,
yeah.
like it's not serious, right? So I can do that later. Right? Now I don't have that perception, or I obviously I still have it a little bit, but it's switching out of that because now I truly, genuinely, deeply believe that professionally I am much better when I'm in flow. I am better for my clients. My clients deserve me in flow. They don't deserve me when I'm out of whack and I can't think straight. Okay.
Right.
Um, and that gives me like ethically or morally, it gives me the space to turn off my phone during the day. I might miss some calls. Doesn't really matter. I'll just call them back later. You know, like it's not a big deal. I might miss some calls, but I'm taking that 5 minutes to half hour to recenter myself and get back into my groove. And that is not selfish.
That's flowish.
It's responsible. It's the responsible adult thing to do, right?
Yeah,
Is
man.
to
That's
take
true.
a
I
break
think
and meditate. Yeah.
that's a good like now it's even more important than in the past because now with all the digital gadgets, we are 24/7 expected to be online, which is quite
Yeah.
big.
Not
Talking
only are
about
we
back,
expected, but a lot of people almost need it. Like because they forgot how to be with themselves.
that's so true. And
Yeah.
also, do you think when you're out of flow, can that also be an indication of what you are doing is not really where your flow is? It's a nuance point, right? We talk a lot about this nuance points
It's a good
in
question.
our mastermind,
Mm.
or not necessarily.
It's, I think not necessarily. It's hard to say, but um, we were talking about perspective earlier, and that sometimes some difficult or seemingly bad things, like obstacles, right? Uh, you can choose to frame them, relate to them as teachers rather than enemies, right? So I think it's both. I think sometimes you will find yourself in undesirable places, um, when you're out of flow, but there's a chance that I might be wrong and that actually those places they could be desirable if you were in flow, right? I'm not sure it's the place. It might just be how you relate to the place.
That's
But flow
interesting.
does help you relate in a constructive manner to anything that happens. And I'm not yet sure. I'm still experimenting, right, and finding out, but I'm not yet sure. Does flow ensure that you're always in a good place physically, or does it ensure that you behold it as a positive place, and so it becomes one, or it is one,
Yeah, that does me think about the scientific experiment of
right?
uh, observation. Like I realized like uh, I think like the term enlightenment maybe has something to do with that, that you are like realizing that you're like there's no duality anymore within you
Hmm.
and the external, right? Or circumstances and you. There's
Hmm.
like one synergy, or like one thing. Like there's not the thought and you, like the thought and the thinker. No, it's just a thought.
Yeah.
There's no identification. There's no thinker anymore. It's just thought, thought, thought. That's like so liberating. And I feel like that when you're just not identified and acting from a place of true motivation, right? Your true
Mhm.
desire, and you have like this trust, and not identified being in the future or the past, and following your basically, like it's said, like I am doing nothing, right? The father
Yeah.
in me does the act. I
Mr.
feel
Worth,
like
yeah.
that when we are really in a flow, we are like allowing that intelligence or that divinity to act through us
Hmm.
without any disturbance.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, like the disturbance happens because of some emotions, right? They call this in the Hindu scriptures samskaras, which are considered being stored in the midbrain.
Okay.
Yes, and that's why the yogis they meditate to erase all these samskaras from their brains,
Mm.
which makes also a connection with what you just shared about all the distractions. Because if you have some experience and it's being stored in your brain and you have to clean that, if we just keep on distracting ourselves
Yeah.
with all this new information technology, we are even more away from who we really want to be.
Of course. Of course.
Well,
And it's hard and scary, like at first, to be with yourself, especially when it's a wild thing. Like I'm gonna say something, it's gonna sound super wild, but still I find it so true. Like, you know how that's one thing he talks about, Jordan Peterson talks about in Maps of Meaning, where he goes really into archaic concepts and all that stuff. There are two essential archaic categories